let's move on to the new movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is a movie that people weren't that excited about. Let's be real. Like it, like there wasn't the hype with this movie as like the previous Star Wars movies there were. Mostly because it's they they know we already know Mandalorian, we know Grogu, his characters, so it's not offering much like excitement in the character department. Well, at least you don't think. And I'll get into some characters that I really like in this movie. That that it feels kind of like the television show, but in movie form. Some people think that's a bad thing. Some people think that's a good thing. I don't I don't know how you would stand on it personally, but I think it works for what it is. I If you want to spend 2 hours, a little over 2 hours with Mandalorian and Grogu doing little missions here and there, and then some downtime occasionally, yeah, it's perfectly fine. I think it's an enjoyable movie. I watched it with my dad. He and I both had fun with it. The I will say the theater when the showing when we went to it was very full and people loved it. Like there was applause, there was a good reaction from most of it. It was a good environment to watch this movie in. So I will say if you're hesitant on watching it, I understand, but I think it's worth the theatrical experience. If you can't do it for monetary reasons or anything, I totally understand that. I understand waiting for streaming on it, but I would give it a thumbs up. I would not. It's not amazing. It's not a whole lot of things that you haven't seen before, but it's just simple entertainment for the family, and I think that is a niche that I do wish there were more family films that you could watch. So I'm a guy who watches a lot of different types of movies, and it's I kind of like some more edgy or groundbreaking films, but occasionally it's fine to just watch a fun family adventure. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I would watch it again. I don't know if I'll go back to the theater to see it again, but maybe. Just depend on if somebody hadn't seen it and wanted to go or something. So maybe not the most triumphant return of Star Wars to cinema, but at least it's not bad. That's the thing that I didn't think it was a bad film. It does seem to be divisive among people online, so I mean it's a Star Wars movie. I expected that much, but in my opinion, it works overall. It's a little messy. It's a little bit you could trim some of it, to be shorter. But I say that with basically every movie I see nowadays. Like like if the movie is more than 90 minutes and it's not like gripping for the whole thing, I would say trim it because people's time is valuable, and I don't want them to waste time with a movie that they're not engaged with. So I just think that I think that every that's a symptom of modern movies that they they're always seemingly, at least the bigger films, are bloated. They've got stuff you could cut out of them. You got the cinematography isn't always the best that it should be. This movie is a little too dark at times, lighting wise. Like it is. That's a modern criticism of modern films that is definitely online, and I agree with it. That need to have more color, more vibrancy. There are some cool shots and camera work in this movie that I appreciated. One thing I'll get to it in a second, but with they experiment with different types of like animation things happening at the same time on screen. So I really respect that, and I think that's cool. They do some experimental things in the movie with the style of the effects, and I appreciate that. But let's talk about characters for a second because I do overall the TV show. I like Mandalorian. I like Grogu both as characters. They don't go through much of a storyline in this, but whenever the Mandalorian gets injured at one point and Grogu has to like look after himself and like look after his dad while his dad's injured, that's cool. I mean, you could have done more with it. You probably could have tightened up that section of the movie, but I did enjoy that. They at least tried something there. Standout character for me though is Rada the Hutt, which I going into this movie I never expected to believe that, but the little baby from the Clone Wars movie actually developed into an interesting character in this, played by Jeremy Allen White doing the voiceover. Also, Hutts speak English in this movie, which is a little weird at first, but I think it is cool. I guess in the Clone Wars, like Zero did speak basic on television on the TV show, so I guess it's not the first time, but in a movie, like when you see a Hutt, you expect them to speak Huttese, which they do, but then they also speak basic at different points in the movie. So that is that was cool. It's probably just simplicity, like so you wouldn't get Jeremy Allen White in a voice booth just going water to 92 dash, like just saying gibberish for 2 hours like that. I know that I know there's actually a language there that you could do and you could explore more, but it's fine. I just think it's cool that he seeing a Hut that can fight is really cool, and the gladiatorial arena fights and everything. I just like those in sci-fi. Like seeing sci-fi gladiator stuff is cool, and seeing a Hut, even though a Hut is still kind of awkward, even if he's like as physically fit as he is still just a giant slug, just like so like trying to maneuver through a fight in an arena is really fun. It's kind of a funny visual inherently, but I had a good time with that, and I like it's kind of directly stated in the movie and kind of left up for your interpretation a little bit. Just like that that Rada doesn't want to be Jabba the Hutt. He doesn't want to be the next person like his dad. And it is cool that like his back and forth with Mandalorian and Grogu that he does like there is a highlight on fathers and sons in the movie, and like it's there. That's a theme that's there. I do appreciate that, especially since I watched it with my dad, and I thought that was like perfect pairing of a person to watch it with and story to tell the story that we were watching. So I thought that was cool, and it's honestly the story is pretty predictable. That's one of the weaknesses of the movie, but the characters, the old characters and the new characters, I appreciated. So I like Rada a lot, and then I love the I love these little guys that are teamed up with Grogu for most of the movie. I just like weird little guys in sci-fi, like the Galvins and Ben 10, and then the Gremlins and all these little. I just like little creatures that are like intelligent and can do crazy things. So I like these little guys that are like engineers or mechanics. They just go around fixing things, and it's cool that I mean, Babu Frick was introduced in The Rise of Skywalker. He was the first of these creatures that we saw. At least I think so. I think that was the first time we ever saw them. But just seeing more of them as characters, they're entertaining. They are kind of like minions, so I understand that criticism because they talk they're little things that talk funny and they do little antics throughout the movie. These things are not nearly as annoying as the minions. So like there's been little guys in Star Wars for a long time, so it's just another group of those kind of characters that I enjoyed. They were just simple, effective. I liked them overall. They with the with Grogu and Mando and like they're not just there to be funny and they're not just there to move the plot along. They have a little bit of a character thing. They bond with Grogu and everything because they don't like Grogu at first, but they end up liking him by the end of the movie. So it is cool. It's simple, but it's cool. So I do recommend this movie for those that may not have heard the first part. It's very simple, very safe, but it's enjoyable for what it is. I'm just happy to see Star Wars go back to theaters. I don't expect perfection. I don't expect to really be blown away by a lot of things because I've seen so much Star Wars in my life that it's hard to actually surprise me in those movies anymore. As long as I'm having fun, as long as I care enough about the characters, that's my other thing with that is you have to try a little bit with the characters and then have fun action and cool effects. Effects work I wanted to highlight in this. I didn't snag a picture of it. My apologies. But there are these two droids that are guards for the Hutt Palace, which are actually stop motion animated, and it is so cool looking. Like, cause that's a very retro style of filmmaking that I appreciate, and I think that they should do more experimental stuff. Like they got do a lot of puppetry and stuff the with Grogu and the little Babu Frick creatures, and hopping around like Muppets. It's kind of like a Muppets movie for part of the movie when it's just them that you're focusing on. So that's kind of cool. Kind of almost like Jim Henson. Yeah, definitely Jim Henson esque. But then adding in the fight scene, the stop motion stuff, like with everything from like Jason and the Argonauts to Evil Dead to RoboCop, like all of that stop motion style. It's I understand it's dated. It's not something that everybody would appreciate, but I appreciate it because I respect how hard people have to work to make stop motion work and how long of a process it is, how tedious it is. So when they put that much effort in something and it looks decent to good, then I really appreciate that. So I think that maybe Star Wars should do more with stop motion in the future. I don't know, maybe if they do like another Visions episode or some kind of like animated series. Stop motion's a cool idea. Like I know that Aardman did one episode where it was claymation, which is a similar process. But I just that kind of just experiment, like just do some new ideas. Maybe not necessarily from the story element with this movie, but at least in the aesthetics and like I can tell they were at least the artists behind this movie were at least trying, at least doing something kind of fun. And it is a throwback movie, so it's a movie that feels like a 70s or 80s type story with Mandalorian like going on a mission to get a certain character and then this hijinks that happen between the plot points and overall if you miss like 1980s kids movies, this is kind of, or family films, this is kind of a good version of that. So it won't be for everybody, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I went to see it. I will watch it again. I'm trying to think if I have any other points I want to mention. There are characters that show up in it that if you have watched any of the recent series, you'll notice, like Zeb from Rebels and the last season of Mandalorian is there. So that was cool. There's a couple of X-wing pilots that have been in the TV shows that show up in this. One of them's played by Dave Filoni, so I understand why he's there because he was already there helping make the movie. So that I thought that was cool. Sigourney Weaver is a nice introduction to her character. They don't do much with her. I wish she did a bit more in the film, but this movie's juggling a lot of things, so I understand that this is like an introduction to her character, who she might be kind of not a literal replacement for Grief Karga because Carl Weathers, we sadly lost him a year or two ago now. So he might be. She kind of plays a part where it's like she's the one giving Mandalorian missions instead of him now, but it's not like a direct replacement thing because he wasn't a Republic person. He was like a bounty hunter guild leader kind of. So it's different, but it's similar. So which kind of honestly you could say about the whole movie, but as long as you throw in some interesting things here and there, I think that's fine. As long as that what you add is enjoyable, I'm fine with it. So I hope to see Sigourney Weaver. She might show up again, and if they do that, apparently they're doing an Heir to the Empire movie about with Thrawn as the main villain who's set up in Ahsoka. So I hope they end up making that, and I hope that we see like as many of the characters that they can feasibly put into that movie. I want that to be an event when they do that. So I think having Sigourney Weaver in that too would be cool.